The slap heard across the stars. The Galactic Tribunal on Arzul was an awe-inspiring cathedral of cold steel and alien ambition. It floated like a crown jewel on the desert plateau of the Zarathi homeworld, surrounded by banners of conquest and watched by hundreds of alien species, some curious, others bored, and many openly hostile. In the heart of this theater stood Gabriel Cain, barefoot and visibly pregnant, her cream-colored diplomatic robe now tattered and stained with dried blood and sand. She had traveled across 2-star systems, endured a sabotaged shuttle landing, and fought through bureaucratic stone walls just to be here. Now, she stood in front of the High Council, and before her stood him, High General Threx of the Zarathi Imperium. 7 feet tall, skin the color of frozen cobalt, and armor forged from obsidian and alien bone. Threx was more symbol than soldier. A warrior caste supremacist who believed diplomacy was a tool for weaklings. Threx looked down on her with a sneer. "You overestimate your importance, human," he growled, voice like grinding stone. "You come here swollen and weak, barking demands before your betters." Lyra didn't flinch. "You raided a peaceful colony on Vesper 3. You slaughtered civilians. You took hostages, children, scientists, settlers. That's not conquest, General. That's butchery." The tribunal murmured, a ripple of discomfort flowing through the seated aliens. If you spoke to Threx like that, fewer still lived to repeat it. Threx raised his hand, and silence fell. "Your people crawl into our stars, infecting our soil with your stink. You dare accuse us of crimes." He stepped forward. "Let me show you your place." Lyra's fist clenched, nails biting her palms. But she stood tall, defiant. "I'm not here to beg, General. I'm here to deliver a warning." She never finished the sentence. Threx's hand came down like a hammer. Open palm. Fast. Brutal. The slap cracked through the chamber like a thunderclap. Lyra's head snapped sideways. She staggered, blood trailing from her lip, falling to her knees on the cold floor. Gasps filled the tribunal. The Kryn observers recoiled. Even the cold-blooded Varn blinked. The silence was deafening. Lyra wiped the blood from her mouth with the back of her hand, then looked up, smiling. Not a soft smile, not a smile of fear. It was the smile of someone who knew the end had begun. "You shouldn't have done that," she said quietly. Threx scoffed. "And why is that?" She met his eyes. "Because now he's coming." Something in her voice, a subtle undercurrent of doom, sent a shiver through the crowd. "Who?" Threx demanded. Lyra slowly rose to her feet. "My husband." A beat of silence. Then laughter, cruel, derisive. "You mean your mate? The male you bred with? What is he, a bureaucrat? A peacekeeper? Another soft-spoken ape?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. From the far end of the tribunal, a Zarathi aide whispered something to a fellow officer. The name passed between them like a virus. Quiet first, then louder, then a roar of frightened recognition. "Cain." Threx's face twitched, only for a moment, but it was enough. "You lie," he growled. Lyra tilted her head, blood still dripping from her chin. "Do I?" In the skies above, a single Earth-made transmission breached Zarathi orbital encryption. No one saw it coming. It played once. A deep, slow voice, almost a whisper. "Touch her again, and I'll paint your throne room in your own blood." Then silence. Threx turned to his command console. The broadcast had come from nowhere. No trace. No ping. No origin. Just a message. Lyra took a slow breath, one hand resting protectively over her swollen belly. "I came to speak peace, but you chose war. You don't know what you've unleashed." She turned to the tribunal, her voice rising with new strength. "My people are patient. We try diplomacy. We honor treaties. But hurt one of ours, and we don't send fleets. We send monsters. You've heard the legends. The man who burned the slave moons of Other. The ghost of Soul Black Sight. The human the Kalari called Death Given Flesh." Eyes widened. Tentacles twitched. Mouths closed. The name was now clear on every alien's lips. Gabriel Cain. Threx tried to laugh, but the sound died in his throat. His bravado cracked like cheap glass. Lyra gave him one last look, eyes cold as vacuum. You just made a mistake that ends empires. And then she collapsed, not from weakness, but from timing. Her knees hit the floor as medtechs rushed in. In the distance, silent and unseen, a black vessel breached the edge of Zarathi space. Inside it, Cain opened his eyes. The name they forgot. The cold silence of Earth's black site. 9 was broken by the sudden blare of a high-level security breach. Deep beneath the surface of the moon Callisto, far from the eyes of governments and civilians alike, the bunker rumbled to life. Lights flickered on. Systems activated. Massive titanium vault doors hissed open as ancient war protocols re-engaged for the first time in years. In the command chamber, a red glowing terminal pulsed. Class Omega priority alert. Subject: Gabriel Cain, diplomat, assaulted. Target: High General Threx. Status: Engage code Widowmaker. The alert ran for precisely 4 seconds before a shadow moved within the stasis pod chamber. One by one, cryotubes unlocked. One remained sealed. A female AI voice echoed across the chamber. Biosignature confirmed. Subject: Cain, Gabriel. Authorization override accepted. With a pneumatic hiss, the final pod opened. Gabriel Cain stepped forward, bare-chested, muscles coiled like steel cables beneath skin scarred by too many wars. His face was expressionless, his short-cropped black hair damp with cryovapor. But his eyes, icy gray and empty, burned with clarity. The AI voice spoke again. It's her. The tribunal. He struck her. Cain said nothing. He simply walked forward toward the armory. Lockers slid open, revealing a suit not worn in years. Matte black tactical plating, powered exoframes designed for zero-gravity assault, reinforced against plasma and kinetic damage. Every weapon, handcrafted, customized for silent killing. Cain began suiting up in complete silence. Only one thing mattered now. Planet Earth Emergency Security Council briefing. We can't control him, barked Admiral Rourke. We shouldn't even try. If the Zarathi want war, they've just bought themselves a nightmare. President Shun stood at the holodeble, face pale, hands shaking. Can we extract Lyra? No, said the defense secretary. They've moved her to A.R. Zol's deep tribunal chambers. She's surrounded by 20,000 hostiles. It's a fortress. Then pray, whispered the president. Pray for the general. Zarathi Outpost 441, edge of neutral space. The station was gone before anyone could call for help. A silent explosion lit up the void. Debris scattered like dying embers. 20 Zarathi Marines. 4 heavy cruisers. All gone. One survivor, an outer scout, managed to send a single frame of surveillance footage. A black vessel, unregistered, moving like a ghost across the stars. No heat signature. No signal trail. No IFF. Just a name scrawled into its hull in old Terran Latin. Fortis in Inferno, strong in hell. The message it broadcast was chilling. This is personal. Zarathi High Command, A.R. Zol. General Threx paced before a wall of holograms, fury radiating from every motion. Dozens of reports came in, minor facilities vanishing, deep space sensors going blind. Entire recon squads not responding. Who the hell is this human? One commander asked nervously. Threx slammed his fist into the table. No one. A dead legend. A ghost. An aide whispered. The Grelzoon Empire used to say the same. Until he killed their entire royal family in one night. Another added. The Varn call him Void Spawn. The Kalari refused to speak his name aloud. We kill that man. Threx roared. He died in the Shadow Wars. No, came a voice from the shadows. The room turned. Elder Strategist Vrax, one of the few surviving members from the early Earth conflicts, stood grim-faced at the doorway. You didn't kill him, Vrax said coldly. You just gave him a reason to sleep. And now, you've given him a reason to wake. Gabriel's ship, en route to A.R. Zol. Inside the cockpit, Cain sat wordless. Images flickered before him. Lyra's bloodied face, her eyes defiant. The sound of the slap, the gasp of the crowd, the arrogance of Threx. He knew the type. had killed their kind before. The self-proclaimed gods of alien empires. Always proud, always cruel, until he came knocking. He reached toward the control panel and opened a hidden compartment. Inside sat a small metal locket. He flipped it open, Lyra's face smiling back, younger, happier. Her voice recorded in a soft whisper. "Don't forget who you are, Gabriel. Not what they made you. Who you chose to be." Cain stared for a moment. Then he closed the locket, stood up, and walked to the drop chamber. Time to prepare. He'd trained for this all his life. He wasn't just coming to kill. He was coming to remind them what fear felt like. The nightmare unleashed. The stars over the Zarathi frontier began to go quiet. First, it was a deep space relay station, Outpost 77B. Then a defense satellite cluster over the mining moon of Dreka 4. No distress calls. No explosion signatures. Just silence. A pattern emerged, one only visible to those paying very close attention. Stations near Arzul, slowly, deliberately, being erased, and the name Gabriel Cain began to spread like wildfire. The Zarathi dismissed it at first, but then he started sending messages, not to governments, not to diplomats, to soldiers, to commanders. One by one, private holo-briefings lit up in Zarathi war rooms across the system, each message identical. A live feed of a Zarathi facility moments before it exploded in perfect silence. No screams, no warning, just Cain's voice, calm as deep water. "This is not war. This is a reckoning." Zarathi High Command, Arzul. Panic had taken root in the halls of the Imperium's Central Command. Admiral Drak-Zen watched the destruction of the last orbital platform with a frozen expression. "He's disabling us systematically," she muttered. "He's not just attacking randomly. He's crippling our communications, isolating our forces, then erasing them." General Threx stood at the edge of the command deck, trembling with suppressed rage. "He's one man," Threx shouted. Strategist Vrax didn't look up from the shifting star maps. "No, General. He's not. He's Cain." The room fell silent. "Do you know what the Kalari said when he took the shrouded citadel?" Vrax asked without turning. "They said it wasn't a man who came through the smoke. It was silence given form. The air itself died before he entered." Threx bared his teeth. "He is flesh. He bleeds." Vrax finally looked up. "Yes, but he doesn't stop." Deep in Arzul detention chambers, Lyra Cain sat on the cold cell floor, arms around her stomach. The pain had faded. What remained was a grim, focused clarity. Her child kicked. Strong, defiant, just like its father. Two Zarathi guards paced outside her reinforced door, whispering nervously. She caught parts of it. Destroyed the entire Krex fleet, no survivors. Used a black hole charge, tore open the station from the inside. General Threx says he's bluffing, but Lyra smiled faintly. They were afraid now. They should be. She leaned back, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Come find me, Gabriel." Planetary orbit, 1 hour later. The skies above Arzul shimmered. A cloaked vessel dropped out of stealth at the outer rim of the planet's defense field. No alarms, no pings. The defense satellites simply flickered, then powered down. Kim was already inside. Inside the capital, chaos spread as word of his breach shattered what little confidence remained. Entire regiments were recalled. Elite assassins were deployed. Drones swarmed to corners of the city. But it didn't matter. Cain wasn't storming through the gates. He was already beneath them. Zarathi Tribunal Fortress, sublevel 31. The lights flickered. Cameras are shut down. Emergency power failed. A shadow moved silently through the metal corridors. Guards turned, heard nothing, and dropped, each without a sound, a flash, or a cry. Cain didn't waste time with theatrics. Every shot was precise. Every kill calculated. He didn't fight to wound. He fought to finish. He moved like a wraith, one moment behind a column, the next a blade sliding across a neck, then gone again. In under 12 minutes, he cleared 31 floors. When he reached the outer ring of the prison levels, he paused just long enough to crack his knuckles. Then he knocked. Not gently. The reinforced door buckled. then exploded inward. Smoke flooded the hallway. Two guards raised weapons. Cain shot them both in the head before their brains registered fear. He stepped through the wreckage, face calm, weapons lowered. Lyra looked up slowly. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't cry. "You took your time," she said. Cain crouched, touching her face. "You look good." She smirked. "Liar." He helped her up, one arm under hers, the other around her belly. "Let's go home," he whispered. As they stepped into the hallway, Lyra paused and looked back. "Leave him a message." Cain nodded and tapped his wrist console. Behind them, charges lit up red across the prison walls. As they reached the landing bay, the entire subcomplex erupted in fire. High Tribunal Hall, 30 minutes later. Threx stood before the Galactic Tribunal, fury etched into every muscle. "He's breached our capital," he roared. "This is an act of terrorism." The room trembled, and then the screens all went black. A single feed appeared. Cain, holding Lyra in his arms, blood on his armor, fire behind him. He looked directly into the camera. "You struck my wife in front of the galaxy. You thought that meant you won. What it really meant was that your countdown started." He paused. "You've mistaken humanity's silence for weakness. You forgot what we are when pushed. I'm just a reminder." Then he cut the feed, and half the city's power grid failed as Cain's virus devoured the Zorathi defense matrix. The husband arrives. The capital city of Ar-Zul burned. Smoke rose in curling tendrils above its once impenetrable spires. Blackouts rippled through sectors. Gunfire echoed from distant streets where Zorathi troops fought shadows they couldn't track. Gabriel Cain didn't walk fast. He walked deliberately, every step a silent countdown. Beside him, Lyra moved with one hand, cradling her stomach, the other gripping a sidearm he'd given her. She looked tired, worn, but unbroken. In every corridor, in every plaza, Zorathi soldiers watched them approach and chose not to fight. They'd seen the footage. They knew what happened to those who tried. Zorathi High Tribunal, Throne Chamber. High General Threx stood at the top of the dais, shaking with rage, flanked by elite guards in obsidian armor. Dozens of political dignitaries and alien species representatives filled the balconies above, waiting to see how the mighty Zorathi would reclaim their dignity. Threx snarled at his commanders. "He's one man." "No, sir," the captain whispered. "He's already in the chamber." The massive doors at the end of the throne hall creaked open. Cain stepped through, slow, calm, and coated in the grime of battle. He wasn't covered in gore. He didn't need to be. His presence was enough. Gasps swept through the crowd. Many took a step back. Even those not familiar with humans could feel it, the gravity that pulled fear into the room like a black hole. Lyra walked beside him, eyes locked on Threx. No one moved. Cain's voice echoed through the vast chamber. "You hit my wife. In front of the galaxy. You thought that made you powerful." Cain stopped at the foot of the stairs leading to the dais. "You made one mistake," he said. "You forgot who I am." Threx unsheathed his ceremonial war blade, its energy core humming to life. "I do not fear you." "You should," Cain said. Then he dropped the sidearm. No tricks, just fists. He walked up the steps. Threx roared and charged. Cain didn't flinch. They collided like two planets. Steel met flesh. Bone cracked. The warblade sliced through air, but not Cain. He dodged, weaved, and drove an elbow into Threx's ribs hard enough to dent his armor. The alien reeled. Cain didn't let up. He grabbed Threx by the throat and lifted him from the ground. 7 feet of muscle suspended by sheer fury. "You want to be a god?" Cain growled, then bleed like one. He slammed Threx into the marble dais. Once, twice, a third time, the alien coughed up purple blood. Cain reached down and yanked the warblade from Threx's belt. Then, coldly, methodically, he drove it through the general's own heart. Threx choked on disbelief. The tribunal gasped. Cain leaned down. "That was for my wife." He twisted the blade. "This is for my child." The body slid off the blade in a heap. Cain stood. Silence. The tribunal stared. Not a soul dared speak. Cain looked around, eyes scanning the balconies, the guards, the diplomats, the warlords. I'm not here to negotiate, he said. I'm not here to start a war. He pointed to the dead general. That was your war. He stepped aside as Lyra joined him. From this moment forward, Earth is no longer part of your empire. You do not control us. You do not touch us. And you do not speak our names unless it is with respect. He paused. And if any of you even think about trying this again, I won't send a fleet. He looked down at Threx's body. I'll send me. Then he turned, helping Lyra down the steps. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. 1 week later, Earth orbit, Medical Station Haven. The stars outside the view glass shimmered softly as Lyra lay in a recovery bed, her hand gripping Cain's tightly. Their newborn daughter, red-faced and fierce, rested in her arms. Cain, for once, looked unsure. She's so small. Lyra smiled. So was the spark that lit the fire. He looked down at the baby, then kissed Lyra's forehead. You did everything, he said. You came for us, she whispered back. Like you always do. Zarathi broadcast, sector-wide. A transmission flickered across systems in the weeks to follow. The footage showed General Threx's final moments. His arrogance, his defeat, his death. Then the screen cut to a simple image, Earth's flag. Beneath it, text burned across in Zarathi and 7 other major galactic languages. Do not mistake humanity's silence for submission. We are not alone. We have monsters too.